Hot Chip Freakout release album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Hot Chip. These guys are a synth-pop band based out of the UK. They've been at it for quite some time now, dropping some very groove-heavy, very classic synth-pop albums, as well as some alternative dance stuff, some electropop, some indie-tronica as well. And over the years, I've had some pretty hot takes on Hot Chip's music. I've liked a lot of it, but I also have not been that crazy about a lot of it. Some of their more low-key albums, I've never been too crazy about. Like, for example, their debut, Coming On Strong, never been a big fan. I always thought Made in the Dark was a little too far out there. And while I do enjoy a bulk of Why Make Sense, when this album was bad, I thought it was some of their worst material. But for me, I've always enjoyed their more upbeat, quirkier, sort of dancier albums a whole lot more, like The Warning. I mean, hell, I still think One Life Stand is one of the best alternative dance albums of like the last 20 years, and In Our Heads is nothing short of big grooves and big hooks. Obviously, I've been a little here and there as far as Hot Chip's music has gone over the years. Now, their last album that came out, A Bath Full of Ecstasy, came out a couple of years ago. I was slotted to review it, but honestly, I didn't have many thoughts on it. It had sweet hooks, the production's fine, but this was the least I've been moved by a Hot Chip record in years. So much so, I didn't even realize this album was coming out until a few weeks ago, and then I started listening to some of the singles, and whoa Nelly, they are spicy. Let's chat about them. This album starts off with Down, and this is ridiculous. I don't know where Hot Chip unearthed this, but this is an absolute gem. The sample, the riff, the groove, my God, is it hot in here? In any dance-related genre, if this isn't on your listening for the year, you're making a mistake. I can listen to this track all day. When Hot Chip are on, they are on. And spoiler alert, I think that this is some of their best material in a while. Eleanor, on the other hand, is more in the wheelhouse of what I was expecting to hear. It's a little bit more upbeat, it's a little bit more classic synth-pop oriented, and that's not a slight. I love the sunny atmosphere here, I love the colorful production, I love the sweet sentiment. It's just so instantaneous and super catchy and just a really feel-good track. When Hot Chip are focused, they can put out anthem after anthem, and that's what a lot of this album is. We get some pretty sharp left turns too, like this album's title track, Freakout Release. This is Hot Chip at their most paranoid, and honestly, I think it brings a new, sort of more human element to their music. There's a lot of that on this album. Not to say that they haven't done that in the past, but I think we get some new highs here. And yes, clearly listening to this track, the band has very obviously been doing some craft work listening lately, but this more subtle, bulky groove is sharp, and the production on this whole thing is crisp. On the other hand, Broken is one of the more warmer, more human and personal tracks here. It's really inviting and sweet on the ears, but like I said, it also touches down on a new emotional level that I haven't heard in a while. All that, and we're still getting some pretty luscious grooves. I'm just shocked at just how vulnerable this track is, and it's great, especially with the chorus. Not alone, I have a lot of the same things to say about. Like, I'm shook. I mean, hearing some of the singles and then hearing some of the more deeper cuts on here, I didn't expect to feel as many feelings as I am, but here we are. This is a very delicate track. It's very lovely. Once again, very vulnerable. And the hook, this chorus, once again, where have they been hiding this? But you know what? Good for you guys. Good for Hot Chip. At this point in your career, this is like their 8th or 9th album. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but throw everything at the wall, and a lot of it's sticking. And look, I may be in the minority here, I probably am, but this is the most captivated I've been with a Hot Chip record in a while. Now, there are a few blemishes. Hard to Be Funky is certainly one of them. This track takes a real sharp decrease in quality. This track is just straight up goofy and honestly really hard to listen to. This beat, this is rough. This just sounds like everything I wasn't into about most of their last two albums. It's too lazy, it's too ho-hum. And with just how real this album gets at times, I honestly thought they could pull off a sort of sexy track, but no, they can't. And not even Lou Hader's verse on this track does anything for me. I think it's the worst track here. And sadly, the finale tracks of this album don't really do much more for me. Guilty to me is a track that probably sounded a lot better on paper. Earlier on in the album, we were seeing tracks that came through that were emotionally potent and really groovy. And then I hear this track, and they're trying for sure, but it's easily the most dated and goofy sounding track here. It's just too much of a stretch, and Out of My Depth as a finale is just a letdown. This album, for so much of it, is very precise, very well thought out. But this kind of sounds like, I don't know, a B-side from A Bath Full of Ecstasy, and not a really good one either. Trust me, there are a lot of tracks on here that are a whole lot more graceful and a lot more emotional than this. Like Broken and Not Alone. I don't know, this track was just a letdown for me. While the second half of the album, I would say, is a little safer for Hot Chip, I still think it's pretty freaking good. Like Time, for example. The beat on this track, it does seem a little bit more bare bones and a little bit more basic, especially with what we were hearing earlier. But it's nice, it's upbeat, it's sonically one of the better produced tracks here. I love the production tricks, and I love the psychedelic underbelly to this track. We also get a sort of nod to LCD sound system in the keyboards on here, as well as the pulsating riff, but it also salutes the past in a really nice way. I love the throwback sort of 90s beat that we get on this hook. It's really good still. Miss the Blues is really good too. I mean, God, some of these hooks, these riffs, they just make me come back for seconds again and again. Even if this track, as far as, you know, the songwriting goes, is one of the lesser moments here, I'm able to give it a pass. The production is stellar. I think the vocal effects come off really well, especially for that hook, and it has a really timeless feel to it. If you're a fan of synth-pop or alternative dance or indie-tronica from any generation, you're probably going to want to hear this. And The Evil That Men Do is one of the weirder, more psychedelic tracks for sure. It's a really experimental tune, and I commend it because it comes off pretty tastefully. It is one of the biggest slow burners here. You're gonna need to listen to this track and just let it grow around you, instrumental after instrumental, which is something that I haven't had to say about anything else here. But it's really interesting. I love how downtrodden it is, and I love the big chorus that shines through it all. Also, the rap verse we get here from Cadence Weapon is actually right at home sounding. I think this album's really good, actually. I mean, it's not the best Hot Chip album. It may not be the best sort of poppy indie album that you'll hear all year, but for me, I think this is the best thing that Hot Chip has done in a while. I wanted them to go back to basics, focus on grooves and songwriting as in like emotionally potent lyrics, and we get that here. We get a lot of that. And yes, the second half isn't as consistent as the first half, and there are some stinkers in here, but the amount of great material here shines past all of that. I have no problem giving this album a very light 8, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.